On this episode, we visit Hong Kong for the Walk 21 conference. Then we take a look back with Jim Walker. We learn about the community for road safety in Hong Kong. Finally, we drop in on the opening press conference for Walk 21. Stay tuned.
We're in Hong Kong talking with Maura Wong, who's Chief Executive Officer for Civic Exchange. What is Civic Exchange?
Civic Exchange is an independent public policy think tank based in Hong Kong. We were founded in the year 2000 by Christine Low and Lisa Hopkinson. And our focus of work is in three areas: urban environment, nature conservation, as well as air quality.
How did you get interested in bringing the Walk 21 conference here to Hong Kong?
Well, since 2012, Civic Exchange has been working on walkability. That year, we published our first walkability report, which maps out what it takes for Hong Kong to be a world-class pedestrian-first city. And since then, we have been working on seminars, workshops, public engagements to promote the idea. Hong Kong, because it's so dense and it's a relatively small place geographically, in many ways it's very walkable. But at the same time, as the city has progressed, it has gone through a lot of changes, especially a lot of vehicles, a lot of cars, shopping centers sprang up everywhere. We think that Hong Kong can truly be the world-class city for pedestrians if we put our minds to it. And therefore, last year, my colleague went to Vienna, which was the last time Walk 21 had its conference, and we undertook to be the host this year, which is great because it's actually the first time Walk 21 came to Asia. So we're very happy that Hong Kong can be the host.
So what's happening at the conference this week? What did you have planned out for everybody?
Well, actually, our conference, so to speak, started as early as in May, when we held a waterfront forum, which was attended by 200 to 300 people, to showcase, in partnership with the Energizing East Kowloon office of the Hong Kong government, kind of what Hong Kong has done, especially in the eastern part of our city, how we managed to turn the waterfront of a previously industrialized zone into hopefully one day the second CBD, Central Business District in Hong Kong, and how to make use of the wide waterfront to promote a promenade and to introduce walkability into that part of town. And since then, over the summer, we organized 6 community workshops, taking people to different parts of Hong Kong and the rural, both urban and rural. And this week, we have an entire week of conference activities, which started on Monday, and it was 4 days of public conferences, attended by 600 to 900 people. And then on the 5th day, we actually will take delegates on 35 different walking tours in different parts of Hong Kong, to old Hong Kong, new, rural, the culture, history. So it's really almost like a carnival for walkability enthusiasts.
What have been the themes that you've been covering in Walk 21 this year and over the last 3 days?
We had a really, really interesting and rich mix of topics. For example, on day one, we started off kind of looking at what walkability means from kind of the global perspective, but also bring them to the Hong Kong setting, because Hong Kong is a very unique setting. We are a city of 7 to 8 million people, 1,000 square kilometers. Most of our land is actually mountainous, so we're very, very dense. It's probably one of the densest urban metropolises in the world. And 90% of our daily commutes are done by public transportation and walking. And so we kind of open the setting and introduce our audience to what does it mean for Hong Kong to be walkable or not so walkable. And then we looked at various cities all over the world. We had mayors and vice mayors from Stockholm, Singapore, Iloilo City to come and share their best practices with us. And then yesterday, our focus turned to social impact. So we looked at how a walkable city affected people. For example, through air quality, air pollution. But also, we had a particularly interesting conversation with a panel of speakers, kind of demonstrating the various special needs. Children, blind, people with disability. What does it mean for them to navigate walkability in Hong Kong? And then today, it's actually a really exciting day. It's about technology and innovation. And so we just heard from Rocco Yim, Sky Duncan, Mariella Alfonso, kind of the various ways of how promoting walkability through innovative measures and ideas and concepts. And then at the end of today, we're going to cap it off with an award ceremony because we actually created a competition, a startup competition called City Tech Award to recognize as well as to encourage people to leverage technology to promote walkability. So there are a lot of themes that have been covered.
And when you start talking about walkability to people involved in technology, do they get it? Do they understand how you can have a connection there between technology and walkability, and then technology can do good things for walkability? What was the response like when you announced this award?
Well, actually, very interesting. At first, people did say, what's the connection? Because walking sounds so basic and simple. So we actually helped them kind of stimulate their thinking, so to speak, by saying, okay, well, actually, if you think about it, it has to do with apps, it has to do with infrastructure, it has to do with information. But you know what? Despite all that, the easiest way to demonstrate all this is when Pokemon hit town. And then at that point, everybody got it. It was like walking and technology. Overnight, everybody in Hong Kong was walking. And so you will see, hopefully, towards the end of today, actually our top five winners will all be pitching our audience and demonstrate to all of us what their ideas are. And they're all very interesting, very diverse. So you will see. You can judge by yourself.
And you had, as you mentioned, a long lead up with the number of events leading up to this conference. This weekend, your international visitors fly home. What's going to be your follow-up to make sure that this conference has a lasting impact on Hong Kong?
Well, this conference has generated so much buzz and momentum in town. Frankly, before this, walkability is not a word that you hear people throw around a lot. But I think after this conference, it's going to be very different. And it's particularly heartening to hear our Chief Secretary for Administration, Carrie Lam, as well as the Secretary for Transport and Housing, Anthony Cheung, who spoke on Monday. Both of them spoke on Monday, and they were basically saying the same things. So we're actually very encouraged that our senior government leaders seem not to only get it, but actually are willing to promote it and champion it. So as I announced on day one, when we actually gathered 24 of the most recognizable names, delegates, together to sign the International Charter for Walking, I announced to the press that Civic Exchange, together with Oval Partnership, we will be forming a group, probably a hybrid advocacy group / expert group, in order to carry this forward, to make sure that the political will and the civilian demand can translate into actionable, concrete policy changes.
We're talking with Jim Walker. When did you first get involved in walking and walkability on the professional level?
Well, I guess apart from walking my whole life, of course, I first off started an experience when I was about 21. I studied about the environment and I learned about environmental management. And at the end of that course, which was a degree in Manchester in the UK, I'd learnt so many different facets of what makes a good environment and about that relationship with people that I needed to go somewhere to experience what that really was in a most natural setting. And I went to Iceland, actually. Not many people know this story, but I went to Iceland and I walked the circumference of Iceland when I was 21 years old. And it gave me a bit of perspective about what mattered. And there's not a lot of life going on in Iceland between the cities. It's a very unpopulated place, totally undense compared to here in Hong Kong where we are now. And it was basically a pilgrimage to really understand the things that matter and to have that relationship that you can only get from a sort of rhythm of a walk, I guess. And without getting too deeply spiritual about it all, but it was a bit of a spiritual journey. I read the Bible as I went, and I didn't stop until I finished the Bible. And by the end of that journey, which took me 3 months to walk around the circumference of Iceland, I felt like it was quite clear that it was the journey that mattered, and it was that walking experience that was something that I thought from as young as 21, funnily enough, walked 21, but it wasn't the reason. I only think of that now. That these were formative things, and so it was a pleasure to then get involved in running national parks, in working particularly in urban areas, looking after trails and building up, encouraging people out and onto routes and thinking about walking, and increasingly working in cities and realizing that these are the responsibilities of engineers and planners and health professionals, and it wasn't just something that was down to park wardens and rangers type thing. It was a cross-sectorial thing if you wanted to do it properly.
And how did that then take you to the start of the Walk 21 conference?
So I guess over time I was working in some of the most beautiful parts of the world, thinking about that beautiful part of nature, being in nature. But I realised there's a small contingency out there enjoying that stuff, and actually most people are living in cities. I moved to London, the heart of London, and worked for what we set up was this sort of London Walking Forum in sort of late 1990s, and we found there that there was an awful lot of people interested in walking issues at a city level. And as I say, bringing those people together into some forum, we found a real sense of goodwill amongst people and a willingness to work across disciplines and across boundaries. So that was London-based, and we started looking at that in a bit more detail and working out what we could achieve beyond those political boundaries and those traditional disciplines. And we held a conference. We got some funding from the European Union at the time to sort of explore what we thought we knew, which was walking was in decline. We recognised that even ourselves, young as we were at the time, and if you look back at the videos, I look at younger in the year 2000, that's for sure. But what we found was that yes, it's true, people are walking less, and people were recognising this not just in London but all over. So at our first conference, we thought we'll just sort of expose that, see how that goes, and sort of bring people together and see if we can have a discussion about it.
So, Walk 21 International Conference, I believe it was February of 2000. What did you discover then about what was going on internationally in the way of a pedestrian movement?
Well, it was fragmented. And yet there was a real common themes coming out of it, that this sort of understanding that people were walking less meant that people were starting to research that they needed to gather more evidence about it, and that they needed to take some responsibility for it. And so we were working suddenly, as I say, with, in fact, even on the first conference, the transport minister from the USA came over and actually spoke at our conference. At that time, the transport minister from the USA didn't even have a passport, let alone ever having talked anything about walking. And so this was really quite revolutionary stuff. And he came as a guest of the UK government, and we had a conversation. And it was quite enlightening, actually. And I think the more governments that we've turned on to this agenda, the more interesting it's got. And certainly over the years, We found this story that certainly picks up issues like road safety, keeps coming up. We've seen the challenges around obesity and around public health keeps coming up. And of course we see this emerging conversation around carbon, air quality, persistent themes that recognize where walking can make a contribution.
This is, I believe, your 17th one this year here in Hong Kong. What's happened over the intervening years? How did this one differ from that very first one?
Okay, well, I say you don't look like you've changed so much, but I definitely, I'm trying to stay as young as I can in between the conferences doing a bit of walking. But I think what we've seen emerge is we've gone from research into evidence. We've gone from evidence into projects. And I think the projects have stimulated policy. And sort of that collective change that's happened city by city, country by country, community by community has really grown something that started off as individual, a sense of possible, into a movement of people that is now global. And, we're really proud to have now been connecting together passion that clearly existed, but just seemed to have coalesced, I guess, through some of our events at the organisation that we've humbly put together that now knows about 6,000 people in probably 60 plus countries. To be honest, we don't count them too much. We just try and keep them in touch and keep them stimulated, because we've gone beyond the sort of one-off conference once a year. People want to be in touch more. They want to understand what's going on all over, and I think that's our responsibility into the future, is to work out how we can keep that engagement throughout the year.
Year from now, you're going to be in Calgary, Canada. I guess maybe your third time in Canada. What should we be looking forward to for that one?
So you might have just heard, but Calgary is an interesting place, and it took us a bit of convincing, to be honest, about whether we should go. What we like about it, because it takes convincing, is exactly the reasons why people should come. It's not a perfect. We go to a lot of places where people invite us because they say, we've spent a lot of money here, or we've made a lot of commitments, we've just written new policies, and we'd like to show them off. We'd like some validation, etc. In Calgary, it's quite spread out. It's quite car-centric, and yet it's emerging. The community wants change, the university wants it to help, and the city is saying we're happy to make it happen. They don't exactly know how that partnership is going to work and how it's going to deliver, but it does strike me that that's not atypical of any situation in not just North America, but actually almost any community anywhere. Bits of brokenness, but a genuine willingness. And I think if we can stitch those together as cleverly as possible, then we could deliver the sorts of things that could be cut and pasted and delivered in all sorts of communities all over the world. So that sense of it's not done yet, but potentially with a little bit of clever stitching, as long as we demonstrate our needlework, I think we'll be fine. And the second part is that we are, for the first time, being led by a university. And we're quite excited by that, because there's an enormous amount of expertise that's being taught, not on a degree about walking. I don't think we could ever expect that, and I'm not sure that that's the best thing anyway that we should be looking for. But actually across all the different disciplines, there's a willingness to come together and recognise that this sort of quality about the public realm, about quality of public health, and about getting efficient cities working, means that you've got to cut across disciplines and actually get the gown into the town. And I think that's what we're hoping to achieve here, and again could be replicated in any place with a uni or anywhere with a decent school.
Thank you.
Well, I'll just say one more thing.
Okay.
I just wanted to say thank you to John, because you've been doing this for a long time now, and we appreciate that you give up so much of your time, so much of your life to the fact of highlighting these issues. It's been a great strength for us as a conference series to have you capture the very essence of what we've been trying to achieve over these years, and quite frankly, I don't know that we'd be as far ahead as now as we would be if you hadn't been here alongside us every way. So thank you too.
Well, you're welcome, and it really helps me out for you to bring all these people into one spot where I can interview them all.
Sweet. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We're in Hong Kong talking with Julian Kwong with the Community for Road Safety. What is your organization?
Okay. Our organization was formed 12 years ago. We have a group of friends who are concerned with road safety, with people getting killed or injured in our road environment.
What are some of the issues you've been looking at over the years?
We work in a number of areas of road safety, ranging from traffic crashes on expressway, highways, tunnels, but also because in Hong Kong, pedestrian accounts for the largest percentage of road fatalities. So pedestrian safety and bicycle safety, and also the safety of public transport passengers. They are all in our interest.
What are some of the things that can be done to improve safety for pedestrians, bicyclists, transit users?
In terms of pedestrian safety, we have been studying the issue in more details. The typical ones are the pedestrian getting injured at, say, intersections, at signalized intersections, and where there is no crossings. And we have problems especially for the elderly. They account for about 70% of our pedestrian fatalities. But we need to look at this issue in much more details. I mean, we have been looking at the policy side. We have been looking at the traffic engineering and road design practices. And speed is one of our major concerns, which is an issue which has not been discussed in much more details. In Hong Kong, we have the default urban speed limit of 50 kilometers per hour. We have not been working a lot on traffic calming, say reducing speed limit to 30 kilometers per hour or 40 kilometers per hour. And we believe that that is one reason why our elderly citizens are at a disadvantage in the urban environment.
What difference will it make if you can manage to get the speed limit lowered from 50 down to 30 kilometers per hour?
From some of the research and experience in overseas countries, namely in Europe and now say also in the United Kingdom, the benefit of a lower speed limit is a reduced braking distance, and also in terms of the injury consequence, that will bring a lot of benefits. There have been research concluding that reducing the speed limit to 30 kilometers per hour is associated with over 40% of pedestrian of casualties. And another major reason for advocating a lower speed limit is that if we want to have better streetscape, a more attractive environment, and to encourage pedestrians to walk, lower speed limit is the lower speed limit is the prerequisite for many of our initiatives to create a better streetscape, etc. We can have smaller, say, street corners and wider footpath, narrower traffic lanes, and they are all associated with each other. So we are not only just talking about vehicles going a bit slower. We are talking about the whole philosophy of street design. So speed limit is symbolic. It's not just only about a value of the traffic speed. We are really talking about something which can revolutionize our urban environment.
To Civic Exchange, Walk 21 Hong Kong Conference is just a platform for us to expand our policy recommendation that Hong Kong needs new thinking behind its urban and transport development strategy. We believe that the focus of the past 40 years on managing traffic, accommodating vehicles growth, building large-scale housing and commercial projects sometimes conflict with the pedestrian scale. We would like to put people back at the center of urban planning strategy and pedestrians at the center of transport strategy. Civic Exchange's vision for the new Hong Kong has 4 components. 1, people-based. 2, low carbon. 3, sustainable. And 4, equitable. In order to do that, we need also 4 things. 1, strong political leadership. 2, clearly articulated, overarching goals and strategies. 3, people-first planning mentality. And 4, stakeholder partnership. Today, we want to demonstrate to you and to Hong Kong that we are creating this stakeholder partnership. The organizations and people behind the making of Walk 21 Hong Kong Conference come from the government, business, professionals, academics, and the NGOs. The people who are here and are ready to sign the International Charter for Walking represents a portion of these important stakeholders. By signing the International Charter for Walking, we want to send a message that we are ready to work together and to promote a more walkable and livable Hong Kong. That we are ready to have constructive dialogue with different stakeholders in order to explore a new roadmap for Hong Kong to become a world-class city of pedestrians. Civic Exchange will continue to play an active role in creating partnerships and in continuing this campaign to promote Hong Kong as the most walkable city in Asia. We will be announcing a second report on walkability after this conference. In this report, it will reveal a tool that people can use to score and assess walkability district by district, neighborhood by neighborhood. We also plan to form a group of important stakeholders. We have not come up with a name for this group yet, but what I can tell you is that Civic Exchange and Oval Partnership will be the co-conveners of this group. We hope this group will include everyone here who signs the charter, but also the many organizations that have helped us behind the conference. We envision that this group will be both an advocacy and an expert group that will hold events, issue research, keep up a healthy and constructive dialogue with our government to make progress on this important topic, and to explain the benefits of walkability at the district level.
Visit us on the internet at www.pedestrians.org.